Welcome back to the deep dive. So have you ever felt like when you're looking at these SEO reports, it's kind of like staring into a black hole, like tons of data just swirling around, but you can't quite grasp what's actually important?
Oh, totally. I know
Mm.
exactly what you mean. It's easy to get lost in all those numbers.
Yeah. And today we're going to go on a mission to make sure that doesn't happen.
Sounds good. It's definitely a trap that's easy to fall into. A good SEO report shouldn't just throw data at you. It should be more like a roadmap,
Hmm.
something that guides you towards better SEO
A
decisions.
roadmap. I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I recently came across this awesome article. It's in Search Engine Journal. It's called SEO Reports, Which Metrics Matter and How to Use Them Well. And it's full of insights from Helen Pollitt. She's the head of SEO at Getty Images. Have you had a chance to see that one?
Yeah, I saw that. I think she makes a really good point right at the beginning. So many reports, they just sort of assume you're going to magically understand all the numbers.
Mm.
And that's really where things go wrong.
Mm.
We need to figure out a way to, turn those numbers into a story. Does that make
A
sense?
story. That's interesting. How do we make that happen? Like, I'm so ready to ditch all this data overwhelm and just get to the good stuff.
Okay, so imagine you're building a house.
Okay.
You wouldn't just, dump all the materials in a big pile and expect it to become a house, would you?
No.
You need a plan, right? A blueprint.
Okay, I think I see where you're going with this.
Yeah, your SEO report, that's the blueprint.
Okay.
It needs, structure and a clear purpose. Helen actually highlights some key elements that can take a report from confusing to clear. For example, relevance.
Mm-hmm.
We need to focus only on the data that's really important to the story.
So it's kind of like Murray condoing your SEO report.
Uh-huh. Yeah, exactly.
If a metric doesn't spark joy or serve a specific purpose, just get rid of it.
Exactly. And while we're on that topic, keeping things brief is another big one. No one wants to read through pages and pages of dense data.
Yeah, absolutely.
Think about it. You could use clear visuals, like charts and graphs, to make that information easy to digest.
That's so true. Respect your audience's time and make sure those key insights stand out.
Yeah, exactly. And speaking of audience, that's another super important element. You'd explain things differently to an SEO expert than you would to, say, a CEO who's mainly interested in the bottom line.
Oh, absolutely. It's about speaking their language and avoiding all that jargon that might go over their heads.
Precisely. So knowing who you're reporting to really shapes how you present that data.
It does. It does.
Okay. Now, imagine you're trying to put together a puzzle.
Okay.
You need all the pieces to fit together logically,
Right.
right? That's where clarity comes in. The report needs to be easy to follow, like clear explanations, conclusions. You don't want people getting lost in a maze of information.
Yeah. No, I agree with you there. Sometimes SEO can feel a little bit like you're walking a tightrope. You want to highlight the good stuff, those positive results, but you also got to acknowledge the challenges, right?
Oh, for sure. Honesty is key. A good SEO report, it doesn't try to hide the negative trends.
Hmm.
It presents a balanced view. It acknowledges areas that aren't working as well as they could.
That's such a good point. Sometimes those areas where we're struggling, they can teach us the most.
Totally.
Okay, so we've got relevance, brevity, we're tailoring it to our audience, we're committed to clarity and honesty. What's the final ingredient? What's going to make this SEO report really shine?
Insights. It's not enough to just show the numbers. We have to go deeper, analyze what they mean, and answer that crucial question, so what?
I love that. We're turning data into something actionable.
Yes.
All right, so we've laid the groundwork for a pretty awesome SEO report here. But now I want to get into the specifics, the actual metrics. Helen breaks down different types of reports in her article, and I think a good place to start is with organic performance reports.
Oh, I agree. Those are essential. They help us understand how a website's performing in organic search. It's kind of like a health checkup for your SEO. Are you attracting the right visitors? And are those visitors taking action?
Yeah, okay. So what are the key metrics we should be paying attention to in these reports?
Well, one crucial thing is understanding the overall volume of visits to the website. This gives you a baseline, helps you track trends. Are visits increasing, decreasing? Are there any seasonal patterns?
Okay, so big picture stuff first, but then how do we know if those visits are actually coming from organic search?
That's where traffic segmentation comes in. You want to see how much of your traffic is organic versus coming from other sources like paid ads or social media. It helps you understand SEO's contribution to the overall marketing mix.
Okay, so we're not just looking at the total number of visitors, we're looking at where they're coming from, how that breaks down.
Exactly. And here's where things get really interesting. We want to know if those organic visitors are doing what we want them to do on the site.
Mm.
Are they signing up for a newsletter, making a purchase, downloading that amazing ebook you spent ages creating?
Yeah, that's where we start to see the real impact, right? It's not just about bringing people to the website. It's about guiding them towards those actions that actually matter to the business.
You got it. Tracking goal completions gives you that clear picture of how effective your SEO is at driving conversions.
Okay. This is so helpful. I can see how this is already helping me think about fine-tuning my strategy.
Great.
But I'm also curious, like if I wanted to understand the performance of a specific page, let's say a new blog post, can I also track that in an organic performance report?
Absolutely. That's where page-level tracking comes in. If you put effort into optimizing specific pages, you can monitor their organic traffic over time. Are they seeing an increase in visits, or are people overlooking them? It's like zooming in on particular parts of your website.
I love that. Zooming in, zooming out.
Yeah.
Okay, so speaking of details, I'm always curious about those pages that are the most popular entry points for organic visitors. Is there a way to track that?
Oh, for sure. Keep an eye on organic landing page sessions. That tells you which pages are doing the best job of attracting organic traffic.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the homepage, a really great blog post, a product page that's ranking well.
It's all about figuring out what's resonating.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've got a pretty good handle on overall website visits, the breakdown of where that traffic's coming from, goal completions, and even page-level performance. But at the end of the day, it all boils down to the bottom line, right?
You got it. The ultimate goal of all this, including SEO, is generating revenue. If you can link sales or leads back to your SEO efforts, that's powerful.
It's proving the value of SEO in a way that everyone understands.
Exactly.
More customers, more sales. Okay, so now that we've covered organic performance reports, I'm ready to move on to another big part of SEO keywords. Let's talk about those keyword ranking reports.
Awesome. Those reports can be super insightful.
Great. Well, then let's break it down in part 2.
Okay, so keyword ranking reports.
Mm.
I know what you might be thinking. Keywords are those like little old school, especially with AI and everything.
I have to admit, yeah, I've been wondering about that too. It seems like everything in search is changing so fast these days.
It really is. But keywords, they're definitely not dead. They're still super important for SEO. We just need to approach them a little differently.
Okay, so how do we make sure our keyword ranking reports are actually telling us something useful? You know what I mean? I'm tired of seeing those reports that just list like a million keywords and their rankings. It's too much information.
Yeah, I get it. It's important to remember that keyword rankings, they're just the starting point.
Okay.
It's not enough to just know where you rank. You have to understand if those rankings are actually bringing in traffic and conversions.
So it's not about like bragging rights, like, oh, look, we're #1 for this keyword. It's more about understanding which keywords are really moving the needle for the business.
Exactly. Imagine you're a fisherman casting a line.
Okay.
You wouldn't just throw your line in any random spot and hope for the best, right? You'd want to choose a spot where you're likely to catch the kind of fish you're after.
Okay, yeah, that's a great analogy. So how do we find those prime fishing spots, but for keywords?
Well, first, you got to figure out which keywords people are actually searching for. Are they using broad terms?
Yeah.
Or are they getting more specific? And are those searches lining up with your target audience and what you offer?
Right, so we're not just going after every single keyword, we're being strategic.
Exactly. Once you've found those high-value keywords, you need to track how your website's ranking for them over time. Are you moving up? Are those rankings leading to more traffic and conversions?
So that's where we see the connection between keyword rankings and actual results.
Exactly. And here's where things get even more interesting. With AI-powered search and all this generative SEO stuff, we need to pay attention to brand searches.
Brand searches, you mean people searching for our company name or our product name specifically?
Exactly. Think about it. In the past, people might have typed in something general, like running shoes. But now, they're more likely to search for Nike running shoes or Adidas Ultra Boost, something specific.
Yeah, that makes sense. Especially with voice search and everything. People are just saying what's on their mind. Like, hey, Siri, find those Adidas shoes I was looking at.
Exactly. And tracking those brand searches can give you some really useful information. Like user intent, brand loyalty, how people are interacting with your brand.
So it's not just about ranking for those general terms anymore. It's about understanding how people are searching for your specific brand.
Yeah, exactly. Now let's switch gears a bit and talk about another report that's often overlooked. It's called a technical performance report.
Okay. This is where things start to get a little technical, right?
Yeah, a bit. But don't worry, I'll keep it simple. Think of these reports as making sure everything behind the scenes on your website is running smoothly.
Okay, so it's like preventative maintenance, but
Yeah.
for your car.
Yeah, exactly. You want to make sure everything's working properly so search engines can easily find your content, understand it, index it, and a technically sound website. It's going to perform better, load faster, and provide a better experience. Just like a well-maintained car runs better.
Makes sense. So what kind of things should we be checking in these reports? Like, what are the red flags?
One thing to keep an eye on is your server response codes. Those are like little messages that tell search engines whether a page is loading correctly or if there's an error.
Okay.
You want to see a lot of 200 codes, which means everything is good.
So 200 is like a green light.
Yes. But what about those 404 errors?
Oh, those are ones you don't want to see, right?
Is that really? Think of like roadblocks on your website. They tell
Okay.
search engines and your visitors that a page can't be found. Could be for a lot of reasons: broken links, deleted pages, wrong URLs.
Okay, so we need to be on the lookout for those and fix them ASAP.
Yes. And it's not just about fixing them. It's about understanding why they're happening. Are you checking your links regularly? Are you redirecting old pages correctly when you update your site?
It's about being proactive.
Exactly. Another super important thing in technical performance reports is page load speed. You know how annoying it is to wait for a slow website? Well, search engines feel the same way.
It's like being stuck in traffic. Nobody wants that.
Right. So monitor your overall site speed and find any pages that are lagging behind. Maybe optimize some images, streamline the code, check your hosting. Lots of ways to improve those load times.
It sounds pretty technical, but I'm starting to see why it matters. A faster website makes everyone happy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, I know we've covered a lot, but there's one more type of report I want to touch on: link building reports.
Oh, yes. Backlinks. Those are like votes of confidence from other websites, right?
That's a great way to put it. They're super important for SEO because they tell search engines that your website is credible, trustworthy. But a good link building report, it goes deeper than just tracking the number of links.
So it's not just about quantity. It's about quality, too. What are we looking for in these reports?
One of the first things, check those URLs. You want to see where those links are coming from. Are they from reputable sites in your industry?
Mm-hmm.
Or are they from spammy, low-quality sites? Those could actually hurt you.
It's like checking someone's references. You want to make sure they're legitimate.
Exactly. And beyond just looking at where the links are coming from, you also want to know if they're actually bringing people to your site.
So it's not enough to just have the link sitting there. People need to be clicking on it.
Right. Tracking referral traffic can tell you which links are sending those valuable visitors.
Okay, so we're checking the quality of the websites, making sure those links are actually working. What else?
You want to understand the value of those backlinks? Not all links are created equal. Some might be marked as no follow, which means they don't pass any SEO value. Others might be on pages that are syndicated, which can dilute their impact.
So we got to be picky.
Exactly. It's not about getting any link you can. It's about building a backlink profile that's really going to benefit you. Before we move on, I want to talk about something that comes up a lot with backlinks. Those third-party metrics that try to measure a website's authority.
Oh, yeah. Like domain authority and page authority. I see those scores everywhere. I always wondered how accurate they actually are.
That's a good question. They can be helpful, but you have to take them with a grain of salt. They're basically algorithms trying to predict how Google might view a website.
And they're not always right.
So more like educated guesses.
Pretty much. And the problem is sometimes people get way too focused on those scores. And they start chasing after links from sites with high domain authority, even if those sites aren't relevant to their industry.
It's like trying to get into the cool kids club, even if you don't have anything in common.
Exactly. Remember, the goal is to earn backlinks from quality, relevant websites. Ones that will bring you traffic and improve your rankings. Don't get too hung up on those scores. That's good advice. So we've talked about organic performance reports, keyword ranking reports, technical performance reports, and link building reports. That's a lot. Is there anything else we need to keep in mind as we're creating and analyzing these reports?
Yeah, a couple more things. One common mistake. People rely too much on certain metrics without looking at the whole picture.
So it's not about looking at one number in isolation. We got to understand the context, the story behind the data.
Exactly. The article uses site-wide bounce rate as an example. It's often seen as like a measure of how engaging a website is. But a high bounce rate isn't always bad.
Right. If someone goes to my contact page, gets my phone number, and then leaves, that's a bounce.
Exactly. But it doesn't mean your site is doing something wrong. It might actually mean it's working well by providing the information the visitor needed. It's all about context.
Okay. So we have to think critically, not jump to conclusions based on one single metric.
Exactly. And that goes for a lot of SEO metrics. Don't just look at the number. Ask yourself, what's the story? What does it tell you about your website, about your audience, about your overall SEO strategy?
So we're like detectives. We've got to piece together the clues and find the meaning behind the data.
Precisely. And like a detective, remember every clue needs context. You wouldn't analyze a fingerprint without knowing where it was found, right?
Yeah, that makes sense. So how do we apply that idea of context to SEO reports? Can you give me an example?
The article talks about crawling reports.
Mm-hmm.
Those tell us how often search engine bots are visiting our website and indexing our pages. Essentially, how visible our website is to search engines.
Okay, so more crawls are a good thing, right? Means search engines are paying attention to our website.
Well, not necessarily. An increase in crawled URLs could be good if it means Google is finding new valuable pages. But it could also be a sign of trouble, like if those crawled URLs are because of spam attacks or technical issues that are creating duplicate content.
So it's about understanding why those crawls are happening. We can't just celebrate a higher crawl count. We need to understand what's going on.
Exactly. It's all about understanding the context. Now, we've talked a lot about the technical side of SEO reports, but I also want to emphasize the storytelling part.
Storytelling, like weaving a narrative with all this data.
Yes. A good SEO report shouldn't be just a bunch of numbers and charts. It should be a story. It should have a beginning, a middle, and an end.
So instead of just presenting data, we're using it to create a compelling narrative.
Exactly. And that's where we'll pick up in part 3. We're going to explore how to turn those data points into a story that people will actually understand and remember.
I can't wait. This is getting good. Okay, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive into SEO reports, and I'm really excited to hear more about this whole storytelling idea you brought up. It just seems like such a cool way to bring these reports to life.
Yeah, for sure. It's all about turning all those, data points into something that people will actually remember and understand,
Yeah.
and something they can, actually act on.
Okay, so how do we actually do that? Where do we even begin?
Okay, so think of it like you're writing a mystery novel. You have all these clues, all these SEO metrics,
Okay.
and you have to put them together to, solve the case of how your website's performing. And just like any good mystery, your SEO report should have a clear, beginning, middle, and end.
All right, I like this. So the beginning, that's kind of like setting the scene.
Yeah, exactly. Start by outlining the context, like what's the purpose,
Mhm.
what are you trying to achieve, who are you talking to? Give your readers, the information they need to follow along.
Okay, so we're setting the stage, giving them a map before we send them on this adventure with us. What about the middle part? That's where things start to get juicy.
Yeah. So the middle, that's where you present the evidence, all your key findings,
Yeah.
using those metrics we talked about. But remember, it's not just about dumping the data. It's about weaving it all together into a story.
So instead of saying organic traffic went up by 10% this month, we could say something like, all that work we did optimizing the content totally paid off. Organic traffic increased by 10%. More potential customers are finding us.
Exactly. You're making it relatable. And don't be afraid to use visuals,
Mhm.
charts, graphs, infographics.
Yeah.
Make it memorable.
It's like in those crime shows, they have that big board, photos and strings connecting all the suspects.
Yeah.
We're creating that visual story. All right, so we've set the scene, we presented the evidence. Now it's time for the grand finale, the end of our SEO mystery.
Okay, so the ending is all about drawing conclusions and making recommendations. So what does all this data tell you? What are the takeaways? And, what should you actually do about it?
So it's not just reporting what happened, it's about giving advice, helping people improve their SEO strategy.
Right. Think of your report as a roadmap. It's guiding you towards your SEO goals. You've analyzed the data, found those challenges, and now, you're pointing the way forward.
This whole storytelling thing, it's really clicking for me. I'm starting to see the light at the end of the data tunnel.
That's great. Remember, creating these reports shouldn't feel like a chore. It should be like a valuable tool. It should help you make good decisions and get better results.
This whole deep dive has been amazing. I have a completely different way of thinking about SEO reports now. Before we wrap things up, is there anything else you'd like to leave our listeners with?
Just remember the power of storytelling. As you're looking at those SEO reports, think about the narrative. What insights are hiding in there? And how can you use them to take your SEO to the next level?
I love that. It's a great reminder that SEO isn't just about numbers and algorithms. It's about connecting with people. Thanks so much for joining us. It's been great having you here.
It was my pleasure.
And to everyone listening, thanks for tuning into the deep dive. We'll see you next time for another insightful adventure.